Hi, this is Jay Harder, and welcome to Python 101. I just wanted to go through a quick scenario where I'm looking at a website that I need to capture some information on. For example, this website has updates. Don't really know when the updates are going to occur, but I do have a field here called last update. So I have a November 3rd, 2017. So I want to capture that date, and I want to make that the baseline, and then I want to compare that date on a regular basis, maybe every day, maybe every week, and see if that date changes. And if it does, then I know I've got to look at this website to dig into what those changes might be. And the way I'm going to leverage Python is to grab the information from the website as well as notifying the user through email. So I thought it would be a good, very simple example of how we can leverage Python. All right, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm just using a Python editor here called PyCharm. There's a lot of them out there, but this is one that I'm using. And a lot of times with Python, you need to import other libraries to do what you need. So in this case, I'm going to import a couple. One called requests, which helps with importing information, or rather retrieving information from a website, like the underlying HTML code. I'm also going to use something called Beautiful Soup. Kind of a funny name, but it's really good about grabbing information from websites as well. So I'm going to kind of use these two in conjunction with each other. So I'm going to say from BS4, which is Beautiful Soup version 4, import Beautiful Soup. And I'm also going to import win32com.client. And that's going to be useful when I need to leverage the email functionality. All right. So the first thing I want to do is grab the web page, which is here. So I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to say R is equal to requests.get, and then the name of the site. Okay, so what that's going to do is going to set the variable R equal to not just equal to this web address, but equal to the underlying code. So that's what the request library allows us to do. Okay, and I'm also going to show you kind of how I like to work with the Python interpreter. I'm just using Windows PowerShell. There's others out there as well, but so we have the editor here, which is PyCharm over here, and that's where I can kind of write the code and use the editor. But if I want to just sort of interact and see if things are working real time, I can use an interpreter. So I'm going to just paste that information into my interpreter, and nothing happened. But if I type in r.content, we can see a whole bunch of code here. It's all just HTML code, but I can see that, hey, something happened there. It looks like it's grabbing the HTML code. And by the way, it's probably useful to take a look at this code. So just right-click on the web page and say View Source. And I want to look. By the way, if we look here, we can see that there's just a ton of lines of code here. It's almost 1,300 lines of code. All we want is that last update field. So I can just search for last update, and there it is. So the trick is, how do we grab only this date? All right. And we're going to use Beautiful Soup to isolate this section right here. Okay, so back to PyCharm. I'm going to say soup is equal to Beautiful Soup. So soup is just any variable, just like R was just any variable I just created. I could call it anything. Beautiful Soup, you're calling that library, and r.content. So R is, of course, the variable that I assigned all that HTML code to, comma, LXML. So it's just a way to say, hey, I want to look at this data and I want to interpret it using this LXML format. So again, if I take that and put it into my interpreter, right click and paste here. Okay, and now if I type in soup, I get a similar set of data there. Right? So it hasn't really helped that much yet, but it will. So I'm going to go back to PyCharm, and now I'm going to create another variable called updated text, and I'm going to assign that to soup.find, because what I really want to find is an HTML code called div that has an ID of last update, or rather a class of last update. They both happen to be the same, but I'm going to look for a div with a class equal to last update. And that's how I'm going to isolate that one section of code so I don't have to look through all 1,300 lines. So if I say soup.find and then div and then bracket where a class is equal to last update. All right. And once I do that, it's going to give me everything, all the HTML code. So I'll show you that. So now if I type in updated text, it gives me exactly what I was looking for. I could refine it even more by saying just show me updated text.text. So scrape off all of the HTML tags, and that's what it's doing. Okay, so I'm just going to do that step here as well. And then I'm going to print updated text. That way it'll just show on my screen here, and I'm going to run it here so I can see what it looks like here. Alright, so what it has last update, and then it's got a line break. I know that because I can see it here. This /n is a line break. It's got some spaces and a line break, some spaces, and then the date, another line break. So what I'm going to do is use a replace function. Kind of like if you're familiar with the replace function in Excel, you say replace whatever text you're trying to find and then the text you want to replace it with. So I'm going to assign a new variable called updated and set it equal to updated text dot replace, and this is just kind of trial and error, but I know I want to replace last update colon, and then I know there's a /n after it, so I'm going to put that there, but I don't know how many spaces are there after it. So I'm going to just keep going. So I've got that many spaces after the first line break, and then we have another line break, and then I've got that many spaces before the next one, and I think that should do it. So when I find that, I want to replace it with nothing, so just an empty string. Now if I print, let's print them both. So I'll print updated after I print updated text. So that should give me the updated text, which should be the same as this, and then it'll print updated, which hopefully is just going to be the date. Let's see what we get. Alright, so let's move that up. We get the original one, and then we just get the date. And sometimes it's good just to run that in the interpreter as well and see what we get here. Now if I type in updated, it looks like I'm still getting some line breaks after the date. So I believe one thing I can do there is say I can use a strip function. So I'm going to just say updated is equal to, I've already updated the updated field with this replace function up here, but now I'm going to update it again to say updated.strip. And now the let's see how that looks. Actually, it's going to look the same here, but let's see how it looks in the interpreter. And what does updated look like? Okay, now it looks good. There's that U, that's just, you can ignore that, it's a Python thing, but really I'm looking for what's in between the two strings, and there's nothing in there except the date. So we're in good shape. Just as a final test though, I really want to make sure that that date is clean, so I'm going to set a baseline equal to November 03 2017, and then I'm going to see if those two are equal. So baseline equals, so you do double equals if you want to check for check to see if something is the same. Baseline is equal to updated, and that should just return a true or false. But I do have to surround it with a print, and let's run that. Alright, so I got a true there, so that's good. We don't need these anymore. I'm just going to comment those out for now. And so that's kind of step one, is we grab the date. So step two would be look at that date and determine whether it's different than the baseline or not. So just to make things interesting, let's just change this to November 2nd, and then we'll check to see if the baseline is different than updated, and it should be. Let me get rid of that as well. So it's really just a quick basic if statement. So if updated is equal to baseline, what do? We can just print a basic statement here that says, sorry, I said if it's equal to baseline, then there's really no update. So we're just going to say print no update to Y14. This is like a Q&A page, Y14 Q&A website. All right, and else, what happens if that's not true? Then we must have an update. So print update to Y14 Q&A website. And just to make it a little more interesting, we could say update to Y14 Q&A website on and updated. And so it's just a concatenation of text fields. So we've got update to Y14 Q&A website on, and then it'll say November 3rd, 2017, period. And we can run that right now and see what happens. So I would expect it to say update to Y14 website on November 3rd, 2017, because our baseline is different than our updated. Okay, so that seems to work. And just to double check that the other scenario works, let's run that as well. Now it should say there's no update. Okay, so that seems to be working fine. So that was step two. Step three is simply notifying the user. This one requires a little bit more code just because you're calling an application out. So, but basically we're just going to set some variables here, like from email address. It's going to be equal to j.harder@capital1.com. To email is equal to, this one's a little different because it's an array, because you could have multiple to addresses, but I'm just going to say j.harder@capital1.com. But I am surrounding it by brackets. And Outlook is equal to win32com. So this is where you're using that other library, client.dispatch, and capitalization is important here, outlook.application. Message is equal to outlook.createItem0. Message. sent on behalf of name, again capitalization is important, is equal to from email. This is the variable I just created. Message.to is equal to, you guessed it, to email. Message.subject is equal to subject. That's a variable we haven't created yet. Message.body is equal to body. We haven't created that variable either. And then we'll just do a quick check. So I have to create a variable for the check to make sure the email was sent. So it's just going to be a true or a false. So we're going to say print email okay is equal to comma email sent okay. Alright, so if we run this now, well, we have to fix a couple things, the subject and the body. So for the subject, I'm just going to use these as the subject. So here I'm going to set the subject equal to this. No update to Y14 website, and then body is equal to, I'll just make it the same thing. Maybe make it a little more interesting to say last updated on and updated. Alright, and maybe I'll do something similar here. So update to Y14 website, body is equal to Y14 website has updates last updated on and then the date. And then one more thing would be useful here is the actual website address, which is up here, so I'm just going to grab that. Because if there is an update, the next logical progression will be to actually go to the website. I'm going to put a couple line feeds in here, and then the address. And I did that wrong, by the way. This has to be a forward slash, not a backslash. Or maybe this is a backslash, I'm not really sure. But either way, it has to be this way. And you can tell I'm on this editor because it's blue. And this is green, so you can kind of gives you a nice visual cue. So I'm going to save that. At this point, I think we're good to go. Let's see if this works. My baseline is November 3rd. I want to change it to November 2nd just to see if it sends me an email. It'll send it either way, but I want to see if it sends me an email saying there's an update. Okay, so I have an error here. I realized what I did here. This message to, this one is a little bit trickier. It's actually message to is, since it's an array up here, you could have multiple items. We have to join the different items in there by saying it's equal to semicolon, because that's how Outlook separates emails, dot join and to email. So let's try that again and see if we get an email. First I'll wait. Okay, email, okay, it's true, that's a good sign. And let's wait to see if we get it. Looks like we got something. Has updates, let's update November 3rd. So that's pretty cool. I mean, that didn't take very long. And we can click on that link and see what the updates are. So there you have it, a quick use of Python to check a website, compare it to a baseline, and email a user for changes. Hope you enjoyed it. Happy to hear any feedback that you have, and I'll talk to you later.